Okay, so this video goes over adding and subtracting fractions. So the first thing that you need to do when you are adding and subtracting fractions is you need to get a common denominator. And remember what that means is you need to figure out a number that the two bottom numbers or the two denominators have in common. The easiest way to do it is to find their lowest common multiple. Okay, so in this case, a 3 and a 6, the lowest common multiple is actually 6 between those two numbers. And so that is the best thing to use for your common denominator. That being said, you could use 12 or you could use 18. It's totally fine to do that. It just means that you would have larger numbers, which can be a little bit harder when you need to simplify. So remember, if our common denominator is, in this case, 6, whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So this first fraction, I needed to multiply by 2. And if I multiplied the bottom or the denominator by 2, I need to multiply the numerator by 2. Right-hand side, I didn't need to do anything to the bottom, so I don't need to do anything to the top. Now, once I have a common denominator, I just add the numerators and keep the denominator the same. And then I need to look at it and I need to ask myself, is there a number that goes into both the top and the bottom? In this case, there is. 3 goes into both. So I simplify and my answer will be 3 over 2. I can leave that as 1 1/2 if I want to, or I can just leave it as 3 over 2. As long as it is simplified, it doesn't matter. I tend to leave things as improper fractions because it's a little bit less work. It's up to you what your preference is. So let's look at another example. This one happens to be a subtracting example. Same thing though, the first thing we do is get a common denominator. In this case, the lowest multiple that these two numbers have in common is 40. And then again, whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So I had to multiply the 8 times 5. So that's what I have to multiply the 7 by to get 35. And I needed to multiply the 5 times 8. So that's what I multiply the 3 by, and I get 24. And 35 minus 24 is 11 over 40. And then I just check the answer and ask myself, is there a number that goes into both 11 and 40? In this case, there is not, so that is my final answer. Then we'll look at one final example. This one involves mixed fractions. Now, while you can add and subtract mixed fractions, the easiest thing to do is to actually turn them into improper first, and then get your common denominator and proceed just like you did on the previous examples. So that would be my recommendation to you. Reminder to turn mixed fraction into improper. You take the larger number, the whole number, you multiply it by the bottom number or the denominator, and then you add the numerator or the top number. So in this case, 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17. So that becomes 17 over 5. And 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So my first step is to turn them into improper fractions. Now I get a common denominator. In this case, it is 10. Whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So I'm multiplying by 2. I get 34. And I'm multiplying by 5. And I get 15. And now I just add those and I get 49 over 10. I check, see if there is a number that goes into both 49 and 10, and in this case there is not. That means I can leave my answer just like that. If I wanted to turn it into a mixed, if I wanted to make it 4 and 9/10, I certainly can, but I tend to just leave it as a simplified improper fraction.